I wired my sister the money before she even finished explaining why she needed it. That's the part that keeps replaying in my head, not the betrayal, not even the lies, just how fast I said, yes. Like my brain didn't even check in with the rest of me. For context, I've always been the stable one in the family. Good job, predictable life, the one people call when things fall apart. My sister, Lena, has always been chaos. Not in a bad way, just impulsive. Emotional. The kind of person who makes decisions first and figures out consequences later. But she's also my little sister. Growing up, I protected her from everything: bullies, our parents' fights, even her own mistakes. So when she called me crying at 2 a.m., saying she was in trouble and didn't know who else to turn to, something in me snapped back into that role instantly. I didn't ask enough questions. I didn't think I needed to. That was my first mistake. She told me she needed the money urgently, like life or death urgency. Rent was overdue, her landlord was threatening eviction, and she hinted at other problems she wasn't ready to explain yet. I remember pacing my kitchen while she cried on the phone. Please, she kept saying. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't serious. And I believed her. Completely. I transferred the first chunk that same morning. It was more than I was comfortable with, but I told myself I'd figure it out. That's what you do for family, right? At first, everything felt normal after that. She texted me constantly, updates, thank you messages, even selfies. I don't know what I'd do without you, she wrote. I saved that message. I actually felt proud of being there for her. Looking back, that's what makes it worse. Because there were small things that didn't add up. She avoided specifics. Changed details mid-conversation. Got defensive if I asked simple questions. But I ignored it. Because trusting her felt easier than questioning her doubt. A week later, she asked for more. This time, the story shifted slightly. Suddenly it wasn't just rent, there were legal issues. Something about paperwork and a deadline she couldn't miss. She sounded more frantic, more desperate. And I hesitated. Not long, but enough to notice it myself. Enough to feel that small, uncomfortable knot in my stomach. Lena, what's actually going on? I asked. She went quiet for a second, then sighed like I had just hurt her. I knew you'd start doubting me, she said softly. I guess I really am alone in this. That hit me harder than it should have. I immediately backtracked, apologized, told her I didn't mean it like that. She started crying again, and just like that, I felt like the bad guy for even asking. So I sent more money. After that, something changed between us. She stopped calling as much. The messages became shorter. Less warmth, more distance. And I told myself she was just stressed. But deep down, that knot in my stomach didn't go away. 2 weeks after that last transfer, I started noticing weird things. Small stuff at first. She wouldn't answer calls, only texted vague replies. She started posting pictures on social media of dinners and trips, the kind she couldn't afford on her own. My chest tightened every time I saw them. I tried to convince myself I was imagining it, that maybe she had extra help, that she was just trying to cheer me up. Then came the message that shattered my trust. I was scrolling through my banking app and noticed she had used the same bank account for a massive withdrawal, one that didn't line up with what she told me. My hands were shaking as I calculated the numbers, hundreds more than I had sent. I texted her. Lena, this doesn't add up. What's going on? Her reply was instant but cold. Why do you always assume the worst? It felt like a punch to the stomach. I couldn't breathe properly. The knot in my chest became a full-blown alarm. I confronted her that night. Not gently, not softly, just the raw, shaking kind of anger that you can't hide. Lena, I know something's wrong. I saw the withdrawals. Tell me the truth. I typed, then paused, fingers hovering over the send button. My heart was racing, but I couldn't stop myself. Her reply came minutes later, and it felt like a knife twisting. Oh, so you don't trust me? After everything? I can't believe this. The guilt was immediate. She sounded hurt, betrayed. I wanted to backpedal, to hug her, to tell her I believed in her, that I would always protect her. But something inside me refused to ignore the facts. I called instead. She answered on the first ring, voice trembling. I didn't know how else to ask. You're the only one who would help. That's when it hit me. It wasn't just lies. It wasn't desperation. It was manipulation. And for the first time, I realized how deep I had let her control me. The betrayal wasn't just the money. It was the way I had ignored every warning. I spent that night pacing my apartment, staring at my phone, and replaying every conversation we'd had. Every tear, every desperate plea, were they real? Or just part of some calculated act to get me to send more money? I felt sick. Not just physically, but like my brain was twisting in on itself. I had always thought of myself as a good judge of character. I had always believed in family above all else. And now, I didn't know if I could trust my own instincts. The next morning, I called her again. Lena, I need the truth. Everything. No more excuses. She started crying over the phone, louder this time. I needed it. I didn't know what else to do. You're my only family, you've always protected me. I could hear the manipulation layered beneath the tears, the way she twisted guilt into justification. I realized then that this wasn't a mistake or a moment of desperation. This was premeditated. And I felt both rage and heartbreak at the same time, a combination I didn't even know was possible. I asked for the money back. Her reaction was immediate, disbelief, then outrage. You can't just demand that. After everything I've done, you think I owe you? I froze. The voice on the other end was still familiar, still my little sister's, but the warmth was gone. It was replaced with something cold, defensive, almost predatory. We argued for hours. I tried to stay calm, explaining that it wasn't about punishment, it was about trust, about boundaries, about not letting this spiral any further. She screamed, cried, accused me of betrayal, and told me I didn't understand her life. I hung up feeling hollow. Every instinct screamed at me that I had been used, but a part of me still wanted to believe her. I felt torn, ashamed, and foolish. That night I barely slept. Every memory of our childhood, every moment I had protected her, twisted into doubt. How much of what I thought was love was actually manipulation in disguise? The betrayal wasn't just financial. It cut deeper, to the core of everything I thought I knew about family. Over the next few days, I went through her social media and messages more carefully than I ever had before. Every post, every photo, every casual brag she had shared, it all started to feel like proof of a secret life I hadn't known. She had been traveling, dining out, buying things she swore she couldn't afford. All while telling me she was desperate, terrified, barely surviving. I tried calling again, but she didn't pick up. Texts went unanswered, except for one terse message. Stop harassing me! You're overreacting. I felt a sick, twisting mixture of anger and heartbreak. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to break every plate in my apartment. But I couldn't. Instead, I sat on the floor, phone in hand, and cried for hours. For the first time in my life, I felt completely powerless. I had always been the protector, the problem solver, the one people leaned on. And now? I realized I had been played, and the person I had loved most in the world had used that love against me. The betrayal wasn't just money. It was everything I thought we were. I finally confronted her in person. I drove across town, my hands gripping the steering wheel so hard they were white. I wasn't sure if I wanted answers or just to see her face and confirm that this was real. When I arrived, she opened the door and smiled like nothing had happened. That smile felt like a slap. I came to talk, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. We need to sort this out. She crossed her arms, defensive. There's nothing to sort out. I did what I had to do. You've made this into a huge deal. I lost it. I told her everything, how I felt used, manipulated, and betrayed. My voice cracked halfway through, and I couldn't stop the tears. She listened, occasionally scoffing, sometimes crying, but never really taking full responsibility. I realized then that part of me had always known. The part one had ignored because I wanted to believe in her. That moment was crushing. The person I loved and trusted most had no remorse, and I was left questioning every memory of her. After that confrontation, things went cold between us. No more calls, no more texts, no more messages about needing help. She retreated into her world, and I retreated into mine. I felt like I was carrying a hollow weight in my chest, grief mixed with anger, guilt tangled with relief. I kept replaying every interaction, every moment I had rushed to help her without asking questions. How could I have been so blind? How could I have let someone manipulate me so completely? I started keeping records of everything, just in case. Receipts, bank statements, screenshots, tangible proof that I hadn't imagined any of it. But having proof didn't make me feel better. I began second-guessing myself in other relationships too. Friends, coworkers, even my partner. I found myself asking, who can I trust? The betrayal spread like a shadow over my life, creeping into my work, my sleep, even the way I talked to people. It wasn't just money that was lost. It was a sense of safety, a sense of certainty I had taken for granted. The financial loss was heavy, but the emotional toll was worse. I couldn't sleep without imagining her face smiling as she spent the money I had trusted her with. I couldn't eat without replaying our phone calls in my head. Even simple tasks, paying bills, checking emails, doing grocery shopping, felt like walking through a fog. I tried talking to friends, but it's hard to explain. It's my sister, I'd say. And they'd nod politely, but I could see the confusion in their eyes. They didn't get it. They couldn't understand how someone so close could manipulate me so completely, or how I could love someone and still feel such deep betrayal. I thought about cutting her out completely, but I couldn't. Something in me still wanted answers, closure, or maybe just the old Lena back, the one I remembered from childhood. The trust that had defined our relationship was gone. And I realized that even if she repaid every cent, that bond might never be the same. Some wounds, I learned, aren't just financial. They're permanent. Months passed, and I tried to return to normal life, but normal didn't feel the same anymore. I avoided her calls, ignored messages, and stopped volunteering for favors. Even when my phone buzzed, my first thought was suspicion. Who was asking, and what did they want? I started seeing a therapist, because I couldn't stop replaying every detail. The guilt ate at me. Why hadn't I questioned her sooner? Why had I allowed myself to be so vulnerable? But the therapy also helped me realize something important. This wasn't my fault. Manipulation is clever, subtle, and cruel. It preys on love and loyalty, and I had been caught because I cared too much. I also noticed my relationships with others had shifted. Friends who had once leaned on me noticed my distance. I was cautious, defensive, hesitant to trust anyone fully. Every relationship carried an undercurrent of fear that someone might exploit my kindness, like she had. Even now, I know I'll never fully forget. But I've started to rebuild my sense of self, piece by piece. The betrayal changed me, but it didn't break me completely. I eventually had a brief conversation with her again, months after the worst of it. She sounded almost casual, like nothing had happened, like I was overreacting. I needed your help. You always make it so complicated, she said, almost laughing. I wanted to scream, to remind her of the damage, the lies, the manipulation. But I didn't. I just stayed quiet. That silence was my armor. I realized then that closure wouldn't come from her. It would have to come from me. I had to accept that she might never admit what she did or apologize sincerely. I had to accept that some people, even family, might never behave in the way you hope or expect. It was a bitter pill, but it was reality. I still care about her in some way, in that complicated, messy familial love way. But the trust, the innocence, the unquestioning devotion, that's gone. And I've learned to protect myself first, even from those closest to me. I still wonder if she remembers, or if she even feels guilt. But that's no longer my burden. Even now, I catch myself replaying every moment, every word, every plea. The memory of sending her money, believing her, trusting her blindly, it all lingers. Sometimes I feel a pang of anger so sharp it makes my chest tighten, and other times a deep, aching sadness that makes me question my judgment. I've learned to be cautious, to pause before giving, to ask questions I used to avoid. I've learned that love and loyalty can be weaponized, even by the people you'd never suspect. And yet I still struggle with guilt, for doubting her at moments, for loving her so much, for allowing myself to be manipulated. Family is complicated, and mine is no exception. I've had to redraw boundaries, accept distance, and redefine what trust means for me. Some days I think I'm over it. Other days, a random text or a fleeting memory pulls it all back in vivid detail. The betrayal hasn't just changed my relationship with her. It's changed me, fundamentally, in ways I'm still coming to terms with. But I'm surviving. That's something, at least. Looking back, I realize that this experience taught me harsh but necessary lessons. I learned that love and trust aren't always enough to protect you from manipulation. I learned that even family can betray you, intentionally or not, and that sometimes the person you thought you knew best is capable of things you never imagined. I've tried to forgive, for my own peace, not for hers. I've tried to accept that some questions will never have answers, some apologies will never come, and some wounds will never fully heal. I've rebuilt boundaries and learned to recognize red flags early, but the emotional scars remain. There's a cautiousness in me now, a hesitation to jump in blindly, and I know that will last a long time. Yet I also see growth. I've learned resilience, self-respect, and the importance of protecting my mental health. I've learned to trust my instincts again, even if it took losing someone I loved to do it. I carry both the heartbreak and the lessons with me every day. Some pain fades, some stays, and that's just life.